Greetings, Mark Garang here, publisher of The Sun. And today my guests are Nathan Hall, pastor of the Lutheran Church and co-founder of the Way Station, and Karen Albert, who's the development director. How about that?
Yes.
Karen, Nathan, how you guys doing?
Great.
Very well.
Good. So we're here to talk about a number of things. You got a big event coming up in August. And just for a little background, you're the pastor of the Lutheran Church, which is right down here on Grove Street. And the Way Station is a separate building, period. But one thing we were talking about before we went on air is that there's actually a tunnel that goes between the two buildings.
That's true.
Can you tell that story really quickly?
So as I understand, so the Lutheran Church used to be the Catholic Church, Our Lady of the Mountain. And so it was the Catholic Church, and the building used to be where the priest lived, and the church is where the services were held. And presumably they had the tunnel so the priest would not have to go outside when going from one to the other in their finery and getting it caught in the rain, etc.
But there's a real tunnel like you use
real
it
tunnel.
now?
So we used it up until a couple of months ago, and that's a whole other story you probably don't need to get into, but we will use it again, yes.
Well, I mean, I don't know how many people know that. So
Yeah.
Karen, do you walk through that tunnel?
Maybe one time I've walked through that tunnel.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's not normally used.
now this is Wednesday, and then last night you folks were in front of the selectmen. And how did that go, and what were you doing there?
So this property that the Way Station is housed in belongs to the Lutheran Church, and so it used to be the rectory, and the Lutheran Church still has offices there. But one of the things that, being an old rectory, it has lots of rooms, lots of bathrooms, and lots of space. The Way Station has been using it, but we have hopes that we can transform it a little bit. Because the Way Station does things like it provides showers to folks who are homeless in the valley. So the Way Station's mission is to provide a safe, welcoming, non-judgmental space and supportive services for homeless and housing secure people in the Mount Washington Valley. And so one of the things that we do with that is we offer showers, and we have tents we give out and all sorts of things like this. And so one of the things we're hoping to do is renovate the building so that we can have a few units of transitional housing. This is not a shelter. This is housing for people who would be able to hold down housing on their own if they could find a space. So the place that they could have units, that they could live, pass a background check, and live independently.
So, okay, so you were there last night to ask to apply for the town to apply for a grant?
We are there to ask the town to apply for a community development
And
block
they said
grant.
what?
And they are pursuing it on our behalf.
How much is the grant for?
So the grant is for $500,000, $30,000 of which the town will retain for its own administration, $470,000 for the work on the property.
Wow, so that's a big deal, Karen.
Very big deal.
And so
Yeah.
what would happen? How do those renovations? How does that help you in your development of the whole property? I mean, is it going to be a physical improvement?
Absolutely, and it's absolutely moving forward with our efforts and, you know, the mission of the Way Station and what we want to do, and it's going to be recognizable with our donors and supporters, and, you know, it's really doing a service for the town and, of course, our clients and, you know, the people who, like Nathan said, are unable to find housing. Those folks would transition then to other partners that we have in the works. So, you know, it's really a positive move. Big positive move.
Okay,
for
so
the
that money would
community.
go for physically rehabbing the building?
Yes.
It would.
Okay, so
Yes.
it's not like, is there any salary involved, like you'd be adding more staff, or this is strictly for the physical part of
This
the
is
building?
strictly
Right.
to upgrade the building, and it will actually increase our liability in other ways for administering the property.
Okay, so
So-
one thing we didn't say at the top, we said Way Station like everybody knows what it is or what it's for, but your mission is you help the homeless.
Yes.
Yes.
Period. So what is the population of the homeless in the valley? Or how do you even know?
Well, before the Way Station started, we didn't know. If you were to, there's something called the point in time count, which happens every January, and it's instituted at the state level, and each municipality and county actually is responsible for counting how many homeless people there are on that one particular day. It's really geared towards cities because cities are places that have people in shelters, and you can find people more easily in January. But in rural communities, people really go to the ground in the winter who are homeless.
They go where?
But to the ground is what I said. But I don't. What I mean by that is that they are sort of like birds that hide down the ground. It's an idiom I thought that was common, but maybe not. But there's just less. It's harder to contact people. But since the Way Station started, we have been able to count people. So the count in our county, with this point in time, went from 0 people to around 100 people at this one moment.
And that's because you weren't counting before.
Because
It's not that
we
we have
weren't
100
counting.
people.
There was no one counting. Yes.
Okay.
And
For
so
Carroll County.
the way station joined a few other agencies and have worked together to make this count happen for Carroll County.
And how do you even count them? I mean, we know people who have tents. I mean, a lot of people who live in tents in the woods and all that, and you provide tents, right?
We do.
So how do you, how accurate is your count, I guess is my
So our count is accurate in that for this particular thing, what we're required to do is make contact with the people that we know to be homeless on that day and verify their situation. And so we call and we have to write into this report like what their living situation at that moment. And so because we have developed relationships with several hundred folks in the valley who are using our services, we on that moment we're able to contact, probably the way station. My numbers are not precise here, but I think it was somewhere in the range of 70 people we were able to contact this year.
And went up to 100. It was like 98 this past
across
year.
the county, right.
Yes.
Are you are you an employee?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
are you the one full-time employee? You have a few employees.
No, yep, I'm part-time, and we just increased our client coordinator from part-time to full-time this past January. And it's really the, what's happening with the way station. It's gaining popularity, unfortunately. We're having more clients, but in this point in time is really a good thing to show with, how many clients we are able to connect with and communicate with, and we document all of this. And then so we gain that data from year over year, and we need to report that to the Department of Health and Human Services and HUD. It helps us in funding, like what Nathan was speaking about from yesterday's vote, but also just, really connecting with those people is vital.
And who pays for those salaries? Is that all from fundraising?
Yes.
It is.
Wow.
It is, and grants.
Okay. And who are the homeless? I mean, who are the homeless? Are they local people? Are they people who move here? I mean, move in here?
I mean, everyone's an individual, right? It's the same with homeless people. And so there are as many different stories as there are people. I would say predominantly they are people who are living here, trying to work here, et cetera, and just haven't been able to secure housing and whatever, what the market is.
Right. So, I mean, in urban settings, I'm making this up basically, but it seems like the vast majority of homeless people are substance abuse or mental issues or something, right? That's why they're on the streets. So is that the case here, or are these just regular people who just can't find a place to live and are living out of their car or living in tents? So how does that work?
Yes, and.
Yep. It's a
In some
mix.
cases, it's absolutely, there's substance abuse, mental health disorder that prevents them from working. We have a number of clients who are working full-time and can't find a place to live or can't afford the cost of housing because of the disparity of cost of living to work. And so it's all of it. I couldn't give you a breakdown of what percentage is what. I sort of have a sense, if I were to look at it case-by-case basis, of what that situation might be. But
So Karen, how do they, I mean, just give an example how it kind of works. Like, do people come every day to pick up equipment, or
Yeah,
how do you interact with homeless generally?
As far as that goes, we're open by appointment on Mondays, 10 to 2. They see a client coordinator, they can come in, they can receive services like the showers that Nathan was referring to, they can pick up equipment, or just really talk to somebody that they can trust, and go from there and have an intake meeting with the client coordinator. On Thursdays, from 10 to 2, or 10 to 4, I should say, that's
6.
also by appointment.
Oh, yeah.
And then 4 to 6 is open to the public. So anyone is welcome to come to the way station, come in, they get introduced to the rooms that we have available that supplies, essentials that they need, clothing. They can get a bag of food. We work with Vaughan Community Services to receive some of the food from their food bank, and then we distribute that to our clients, and then we also just collaborate with them to get it out to some of their clients who are also homeless.
So how does that was my next question, is how do you fit into the world of the Vaughan Center, for one thing, even town, PJ Parker?
Yeah.
So where does that line between homeless and just helping, and how does that go?
And with what Nathan was saying earlier about, or you were asking about substance abuse or mental illness, it's really important that we know and understand the agencies of Carroll County so that we can collaborate with them. And so, we attend the OSIP roundtable, for instance. BJ's on that call. There's a lot of other people from other agencies in Carroll County on that call, so we're always updating each other in what we're doing. And it's so vital to understand, the services so that we can confidently say to the client, I'm hearing that you're struggling with abuse or food insecurity, or you don't have a place to sleep tonight. And so we can give them the services that we provide, but then we can also
So what does
refer
the
them
town,
to another agency.
what does the town provide? Like, how does that work? Like, what does BJ provide, the town provide?
So we have a great working relationship with BJ. We have a good working relationship with the Vaughn. The Way Station actually emerged to be a sort of stopgap agency. So you have all these services that are provided, but with the town, there's lots of red tape that's needed. For instance, you have to prove that you're a citizen, a resident of Conway.
Oh.
And you have, because towns are not required to help people who aren't their
Sure,
residents.
it makes
naturally.
sense, yeah.
There's any service the town gives you, you have to sign an immense number of paperwork. You have liens against you. You have debt against you with those. And it's really, sometimes for some folks, it's very tall order. So the town can do some things and we can do other things. We're better at sort of rapid response things at this point. So we can give a tent quickly. We can sort of help fill in the sort of Band-Aid gap sort of stuff is where we focus. And I think BJ would say that what we've done has helped her immensely. For instance, this winter, we
The
got a
cold
grant
weather.
from the state for cold weather, which meant that we were able to put people in hotels when the weather was really bad. And so because of that, that saved the town a lot of money because they were not in a position of having to deal with that. And so we have a really good working relationship.
Yeah. So, and speaking of housing or hotels, what is the housing situation? You don't provide, do you provide overnight, like emergency housing, or any housing?
With the cold weather grant, yes, we do. From when that starts, which is, unfortunately, last year it was in November that we had our first activation, and then that goes to April pretty much for our season up here. And so we participate in the Department of Health and Human Services for the state. For Carroll County, Way Station is the agency that handles this cold weather emergency shelter. And so we partnered with a couple of properties up here that are able to, have room blocks for when we have an activation. So we set that up, and then we connect with our clients to simply ask, do you have a place to go tonight? It's going to be stormy weather. The temperatures are going to fall below the threshold. Do you have where are you staying? Do you have a tent? Do you have whatever is needed? And then we either place them in a hotel, or if they're unable to do that, they might sleep in their car. And provide them a gas card, or really try to anchor down their shelter if they're in tent. So it's all levels depending upon the client. It's very customized that way, and I really feel that breaks down a big barrier for each client
Sure.
to be able to trust us. And it is an arm's length. For it's a stretch, and a connection with the town. And BJ's role is she's the welfare officer for the town. And we've also worked with the police department. We were able to communicate with all of them. We're getting into activation tonight or in the next day or two, and so that they can also refer to us.
Sure. Now, now you literally give people tents.
We do.
Yes.
So you give them a tent. Where do you recommend they stay or go with the tent? I mean, are there certain pieces of land around here? I mean, we know that I think everybody in town knows where probably someone lives in a tent out in the woods somewhere.
So the place that we tell people where they can legally camp, and that's in the National Forest for 14 days before you have to move. 10 miles is the bird flies, maybe 12. But we have the literature, we give them that and tell them that. But if you look at the incentive structure of our community, to get to the National Forest is a 12-mile hike one way. If you don't have transportation, that's not practical. And so the way we've created our community, we have services one place. And so we encourage people to stay where they're legally able to, and we also encourage folks to be very clean if they do what they have to do.
Okay, so they just find, I mean, so what you're saying is that there are a lot of people who stay on private property somewhere, some way, somehow, right? And it's
Yes.
just allowed. I mean, either the landowner allows it or they don't know, or it's just, that's the way it works. Yep.
That is the structure we have, yeah.
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 And what about the winter? Are people staying in tents in the winter?
Yes. In fact, one of the things that we give out with the cold weather grant is tents with very warm sleeping bags and thick, heavier tents. And we do that especially for clients that have maybe burned some bridges and can't stay in hotels. And so, for a specific population, that's what we can do.
And how much do you think it's, I'm kind of jumping around on subjects here, but how much do you think it's caused, the homeless situation has caused? I mean, is it literally a direct line between, obviously everybody's challenged with housing these days here. Is that it? Is it the affordability of housing, or are there other issues, which I'm sure there are?
There are always
I
other
think
issues.
it's other
Yeah.
categories too. Yeah.
But housing is certainly a big effect. For instance, if you were to, like, those of us in sort of middle income, we're feeling the pressure of the housing market, especially if people are out trying to buy a house now. But there's a knock-on effect to that, which means that, as things become more scarce, those with even less resource, it's even harder. And there are initiatives, like Bluebird, I know, is working on an initiative to create some lower income housing. There are some other, Avesta has some. Those are full. It's just very hard to find something.
Because it's just, I mean, we know this, and you guys know it obviously better than anybody, but there's always this downward spiral, right? You don't have a place to live, then you can't clean up, then you don't have a car, then you can't get to your job, right? So you just end up in this downward spiral.
When we were talking about, the employees of the way station, the latest thing is that we have, through a grant, been able to hire a circles coordinator. And really the ideal is that we have, maybe they're not our clients right now, but they're working their way out of homelessness and into more of a stabilization. And that's part of our initiative is, under the poverty mitigation, is how can we help these people get out of homelessness. And Circles is a nationally recognized program to help people with the skills that they need for leadership and then circle back and help another. So we've just hired a program coordinator, and hopefully the first Circles group will be starting up in the fall. There's a lot of work that's being done behind the scenes to get that ready. But the more we connect with our clients and explain this to them, the relationship grows deeper, the trust builds, and then people are really noticing that, I can too get out of this cycle that I'm in, whatever it is. Whether it's substance abuse, whether it's, whatever it is.
Right.
They're getting out of it and getting the tools they need to then go into a more stable
Okay, let's
situation.
talk about your the event that's coming in August and these bracelets.
Okay.
So what's the bracelet?
You want to talk about the bracelet?
Sure. So we have bracelets we give out. You can see them here. And I wear mine around because written on this bracelet is both the web address and the phone number for the way station. So if we see someone who could use the way station services, say someone were to come to you and ask for assistance with something, I will give out this bracelet and encourage them to call this number. And then the way station will respond as it's able to do so. And so I wear the bracelet around, give it out, and yeah, it's a good thing.
Okay, cool.
And like Dan says, our client coordinator, Dan Levine, it's like a security blanket. It's something that they can hold. They know that there's a friend there with this bracelet. So it's really a symbol
Right.
too.
And it's a symbol not for people who are just homeless, but you're saying it's a
Right.
symbol for anybody to wear.
Yes.
Right, so it's, okay,
Yes.
get that.
Yeah.
And what about Karen, what's the event, the big
So
event in August?
Cocktail, I do want to put this poster up.
We
You
have
can
a poster, Rob? I think we
hopefully
have it
see
on
it.
the,
Oh, brilliant.
in many places. So Thrivent is sponsoring this Hawktail concert, and this is Nathan calls it a raised eyebrow strings
Eyebrow
band,
bluegrass band,
eyebrow
yeah.
bluegrass
what's
band.
Thrivent?
It's a financial group. It's a nonprofit financial group. There's an office down in Ossipee.
Okay.
And many of our church members are members of it. Started
Okay.
out for Lutherans, and now it's branched out. But yeah.
Hey, how many Protestant churches are there locally?
Locally,
I mean, I know there's a zillion of them
off
around.
the top, huh? The United Church of Christ has probably 4 in a very close range. For Lutherans, there are hardly any around. We're not a strong presence in New England.
There's one in Berlin.
There's one in Berlin, there's Laconia and Conway, and then Concord.
I was
Yeah.
confirmed in the one in Berlin.
No kidding.
Yeah. St. Paul's, yeah.
Look at that. So yeah, St. Paul started the one down here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there are a few, but there are many varieties of Protestant, and I couldn't even tell you how many
Yeah.
there are in the valley.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
Because there's only one Catholic church left, right?
There's
Up
one
here.
There's one. Yes, there's one church, but that's also just one denomination, whereas there are many different denominations
Sure.
of Protestants.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, off topic.
So-
then getting back to the.
This is our first and biggest friend raiser. We're making sure that anybody can attend. The tickets are free. We are asking for a suggested donation of $50. We're also asking businesses in the community to sponsor this event. We've got some wonderful sponsor benefits for all the businesses, and anywhere from being a neighbor sponsor for $150 to $2,500. I'd like to say that Eversource and Dwight Roofing and Sons has stepped up, and Memorial Hospital. Walmart is a sponsor. HEB, no, not HEB, I'm sorry, Bergeron Technical
Yeah,
Services.
Sean Bergeron.
And we've got some others in the works. So if anybody's interested in sponsoring this, you're going to sponsor it with helping us get the word out with advertising, the Conway Daily Sun.
Cranmore Inn is providing.
Mount Washington Valley Radio, Cranmore Inn is providing housing for the Hawk
And what's the
Tail.
music?
So the music is strings. It's bluegrass strings. There's a fiddle, violinist, cello, and a guitar. And their music is amazing. It's all original sound, and they're nationally recognized. And they're coming here to the Laura Hill Eastman Performing Arts Center on August 15th.
And that's in the Freiburg Academy.
Yes.
So, the bassist has won a Grammy.
Yes.
And
Oh, really?
They're really very good band.
Very talented.
Okay, that's great.
Very uplifting, which is really, what it's all about. We really want to lift up the
Can I ask you
community.
just sort of a general, like a national question about homelessness?
You can ask.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's what I do.
Yes.
And you can answer or not.
I'll answer as I'm able. Yes.
So, I mean, you always read about the problems in like Portland, Oregon. I mean, obviously we're not a haven for homeless because it's too damn cold, for one thing, right? I mean, that's why people go to Portland, Oregon and places with a little more temperate climate. And I was recently this spring in Greenville in South Carolina, and there were no homeless. And somebody had mentioned to me, yeah, they're out of here. They move them. What's your general thought about, and in Portland, it's an issue. I mean, downtown, people are walking around tents and all that. How do you reconcile all that?
So reconcile is a big word, but I think it's an important way to think about it because there are competing needs, and everyone has a right to life. And so I think one of the important steps to take is to be thoughtful about what are the needs of my neighbors, all of them. And so, and if there's tension between that, to recognize that which ones are most vulnerable, like where's the power lie in the equation. So I would say, it's probably getting into my preachy side right now, but I would say that
Like, what's
there
the
needs
answer?
to be safe. There's no one answer, right? There are multiple layers of answer, from mental health services to providing housing, like Housing First is an interesting model going around, to we have no shelter here in the whole county,
It's the
so-
only county without a shelter
and so
in New
if
Hampshire.
Are you gonna? This is a small diversion. Do you plan to have like a real shelter with the?
that is one of our goals, to eventually have a shelter,
Now you know what people are gonna say.
of course.
You're gonna attract more people.
That is a thing people have said. Of course, right now, if you think about our obligation as a town, what we do is one of the things that the town does is it offers shelter. We'll call around and find places to ship our homeless people somewhere else. So I don't think that the presence of a homeless shelter is actually the thing that attracts homeless people. It's not like a homeless shelter is a paradise. It is almost a last resort for folks. It's not the desired place to be.
Okay.
But it is a place that could be safe and hopefully a leg up on the
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
All right, and lastly, and I'm just asked these questions from a layperson, right? Like when you see people standing on the median, like at Walmart, asking for money, like how do you view that? And do you suggest that people? I've given, you know, a couple of dollars. I know it feels awkward sometimes. You're at the traffic light and there's someone standing there. Like, how does that work? And I know in Portland, Maine, there was a, you know, where there were a lot of people asking for donations. I mean, it's really a whole network. I mean, among the homeless and how they had stakeout territories and all that. So how do you view that here in the Valley?
So I view that as people being creative and trying to find a solution. What I often do in those circumstances is I give out the bracelet. So I will give out those resources hoping that we can help find another way to figure things out.
And Dan's business card,
and
a
Dan-
lot
yeah.
of times, you know, we can hand them that. Maybe they don't know about the way station where they can go and meet with somebody and get resources,
I
whatever
mean, do you
it is that
encourage
they
people
need.
to do that?
Oh, heavens no.
Yeah.
Of course we don't encourage people to do that.
I mean, well,
yeah.
you said it's an imaginative way or creative way,
Yeah.
but
I also think it's not a safe way.
one could argue that.
So I don't encourage people staying in the middle of the road to try to get.
Yeah.
Right.
But you know, people they're going to find a way to live,
Right.
and so.
Well, okay, let's put that aside. We're basically out of time. Karen, you get the last word. I mean, this is a great organization. Good luck with the grant from the town and all that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'd love everybody to go to our website, waystationnh.org, to see what we're doing these days. There's a lot of information up there. There's all the information about Hawktail and this event and how you can get involved or how you can see them on August 15th. And, you know, connect with us. We are always seeking volunteers. We're at a lot of events like Pride. We're at the Farmers Market on Tuesday, July 2nd. We're going to be there with the Veterans theme. And, you know, it's a lot about outreach and connecting with our community because somebody knows a neighbor who is having a hard time, you know, with their homelessness.
Well, good. It's very nice, and I have an idea for a fundraiser. Let
Great.
people look at that tunnel.
Oh,
Well, let's get it.
that might be
soon.
a good idea.
Once we get this grant, we may be able to
All
do
right.
that.
Nathan?
Hey, yeah.
Nice
thank
to see you. Karen?
Thank you,
Nice
Mark.
to see you.
Good to see you
Good
too.
to see you guys.
Yeah.